Welcome back, everyone, to Roblox Retrospect, a series where every so often I'll take an old classic Roblox game and I'll review it and see if it still holds up today or if it's absolute garbage and we just played some BS as kids. Now, originally, this video was going to be about Lumber Tycoon 2, another game that's just an absolute classic and everyone knows about it. And I was going to compare Lumber Tycoon 2 to a clone of Lumber Tycoon 2 that I started playing recently and really fell in love with. And I was going to compare the two games and see which one is better, you know. Do I just have recency bias and that's the reason that I like the new game? Or is the new game actually really good and I'm actually right in assuming that it's better? However, when I put Lumber Tycoon 2 and this other clone head to head, I realized that the matchup was so one-sided that I might as well just make this video entirely about the clone and tell you why it's 500 trillion times better than Lumber Tycoon 2. And I want to make it clear, I'm a fan of Lumber Tycoon 2, alright? I really like the game, I played it a lot as a kid, and I still have really fond memories of it. And if this clone didn't exist, I think that Lumber Tycoon 2 would still hold up, and I would, right about now, I would be telling you all to go play it and relive your childhood memories and whatnot, but unfortunately, because this clone exists, I can't really view Lumber Tycoon 2 through rose-tinted glasses anymore. So anyways, let's finally get to the point. What the hell is this clone of Lumber Tycoon 2? Which game exactly am I talking about? And well, I'm sorry to any Refinery Cave fans out there, but unfortunately for you, and fortunately for me, the game that I'm talking about in this video is called Oaklands. That's right, Oaklands is the one Lumber Tycoon 2 clone that I think exceeds Lumber Tycoon 2 in pretty much every conceivable way. I mean, first and foremost, even though I love Lumber Tycoon 2, the one thing that you have to constantly do in the game that's just so fucking cancerous and tedious and annoying is load and unload resources from your truck. On the surface, Lumber Tycoon 2 looks like a game that's all about exploration and building and selling resources and chopping down new trees and finding new trees and all that. But in reality, all of that is only about 20% of your gameplay. 80% of your gameplay is picking up each piece of a tree that you cut down, one by one, and loading it into your truck, and then going back home and unloading it one by one by one by one, and then refining it one by one by one by one, and then picking it up again when it comes out of the other side of your machines, one by one, and putting it in your truck, one by one, and then going to sell your resources and unloading them into the selling bin, one by one. It is just absolutely mind-numbingly tedious work that you can't circumvent in any way. There's no quality of life in the game that can help you alleviate the fucking tediousness of unloading and loading resources into your truck. It is probably the most boring task in the game, and yet it takes up like 80% of your gameplay. Meanwhile, all the other fun stuff, like exploring and finding new areas and chopping trees and finding new trees and all that only takes about 20% of the gameplay. And all of this just really drags the game down for no reason at all, and it makes for some pretty mixed gameplay overall. Now, early game Oaklands also has a similar problem, where you gotta do this tedious task of putting things in your truck, taking it out of your truck one by one, over and over again. But it pretty quickly alleviates that issue with some quality of life tools. And those quality of life tools are called the Grabby Grabber and the Grabbiest Grabber. And I know that those sound like some pretty silly names, but basically what these items do is when you chop down a tree or mine a rock, you can equip either the Grabby Grabber or the Grabby's Grabber, and it creates a little force field wherever you click. And whatever is inside of that force field, you carry all at once. So if you fit like, I don't know, like 10 items inside of that force field, you'll carry all 10 items at once wherever you want. So instead of having to carry 10 items like one by one, you can just grab all 10 at once, shove them in your truck, grab another 10, shove them in your truck, grab another 10, shove them in your truck, and boom, your job is done within like 3 repeat tasks, instead of 30 repeat tasks. Now, one great annoyance with Lumber Tycoon 2 that I didn't mention back when I talked about it, is that when you're playing Lumber Tycoon 2, and you put items inside of your truck, and you drive your truck, the items in your trailer are completely unanchored, which means as you're driving, your items are bouncing around everywhere, and at any moment, you could hit a tiny little fucking pebble in the road, and everything in your truck will just fly out into space, just scatter all across the fucking map. And you'll have to spend like another 30 minutes trying to find everything and put it back in your truck and continue on your way. I mean, there's just nothing more annoying than when you perfectly measure out the space in your truck and perfectly use every square inch of your truck just to start driving, and everything that you perfectly calculated just falls apart immediately as soon as you hit like that tiniest little bump in the road. Now compare this to Oaklands, where when you're putting stuff inside your truck, all that stuff is unanchored, of course, just like in Lumber Tycoon 2. But when you actually sit in the driver's seat and start driving your truck, everything that's inside of your truck is anchored. It cannot move, it cannot budge an inch. Now, of course, to make it so that you don't just drive carelessly and just do stupid shit, your stuff will still unanchor and still fly all over the place, but only if you completely flip your truck and you don't just like hit a minor, tiny, minuscule little bump in the road and everything flies out. And I like this feature a lot because it encourages greeting. In Lumber Tycoon 2, you only take like what you can put in your truck comfortably, you know, without like overstepping the line even a little bit. But in Oaklands, the game actually encourages greeting with this whole anchor mechanic, because you're not only putting what can fit in your truck in Oaklands. Instead, you're treating it like a puzzle and making the absolute most of your trailer space within the game. You're putting absolutely everything that you can in your trunk, and you're utilizing your space to its 110%. It is genuinely a lot of fun when you hop onto Oaklands and you chop down either way too much wood than what can fit in your trunk, or mine way too much ore than what can fit in your trunk. And yet, despite that, you still manage to maximize your space and fill in every nook and cranny of your trunk, and you manage to fit absolutely everything in, and it stays in its place, and the game actually rewards you for using your truck space wisely, instead of just fucking spilling everything from your truck as soon as like the slightest little bump occurs. Now, speaking of trucks, another cool thing that Oaklands added into its game recently that Lumber Tycoon 2 doesn't have is that when you're playing Oaklands and you pick up something that can be put in your trunk, the walls of your trunk disappear to let you put the item in more easily, and then when you let go of the item, the walls of your trunk reappear again. Now, this is mostly a thing that helps people who use the Phaline transporter truck, or whatever it's called. I think it's called Phaline Transporter. But basically, it's like this really, really big truck in the game, which has a complete box around its trunk. Like one of those actual trucks that you would see like on a highway in real life, and it makes sure that like items don't like have a 0 chance of falling out of your truck even if you flip over or something. And this feature of being able to put stuff through the walls of your truck really helps in Oaklands. And obviously Lumber Tycoon 2 doesn't have this feature, but even if it did have this feature, it wouldn't really do a lot, because the walls of your trucks and trailers in Lumber Tycoon 2 are so shallow that they're barely even fucking visible. Like, the walls of your trailers stick up by like maybe fucking 2 millimeters. Like, they aren't even as thick as a log of wood. And that partially also contributes to the reason why why your car bumping and jumping around and everything spilling out is so fucking annoying in Lumber Tycoon 2. Now, outside of just quality of life things that make Oaklands a lot more satisfying and a lot better to play than Lumber Tycoon 2, Oaklands also has a crap ton more content than Lumber Tycoon 2. It has a bigger map, it has more shops, it has more different areas to explore. As I mentioned before, there's also mining in the game, as well as cutting trees. There's a lot more machines you can use for refining. There are a lot more blueprints and ways to build and materials to build with. There are dyes in the game that you can color things with. There are more NPCs. I think the technology in both of the games is the same. I think both Oaklands and Lumber Tycoon 2 have logic gates and electricity and all that. They're pretty similar in that aspect. And the only two other things that I can think of that Oaklands has and Lumber Tycoon 2 doesn't is, first of all, more updates. Oaklands updates a lot more often than Lumber Tycoon 2. Although that's not something I would really hold against Lumber Tycoon 2, because Lumber Tycoon 2 was made in, 2014? Like 12 years ago or something. So it's pretty understandable that the developer isn't really as active on the game anymore as they used to be. But other than that, the other thing that Oaklands has that Lumber Tycoon 2 doesn't is live events. There are random events that can happen inside of Oaklands when you play. Like, for example, when it turns night, stars start falling from the sky, which you can pick up and use as a material or use as a light source and stuff like that. And there's also, meteors, for example, which fall on the ground, and then if you go to the crash site of the meteor, you will find a lot of meteorite ore from outer space, and you will find, the core of the meteor and, some magma trees and whatnot. And then there are lightning strikes, where if a lightning hits a tree, then that tree becomes electrified and starts being worth a lot more. Or, for example, in the cold biomes, there's the Aurora Borealis, which can Aurora Borealize trees, I guess, for lack of a better word, and also give them a unique effect where they look a lot different and a lot more exotic and just sell for a lot more. But yeah, overall, I think I made my point with this video. Oaklands just has a shit ton of quality of life features that make playing the game way smoother and way less annoying and tedious. And it also has a lot more of an emphasis on building and actually doing stuff with the materials you collect and making machines and building houses and using your blueprints and collecting rare stuff and putting on display. And it just has a lot more building options, it has a lot more decorations, a lot more dyes, a lot more material types, a lot more of everything than what Lumber Tycoon 2 has to offer. And I mean, the only real reason that I'd be playing Lumber Tycoon 2 right now is if I feel super attached to my progress. But other than that, there's genuinely no reason to play Lumber Tycoon 2 over Oaklands. So, I mean, you know what? I'm not gonna tell you to completely quit Lumber Tycoon 2 or anything. I'm never gonna tell someone anything like that. But what I will tell you is to abso-fucking-lutely check out Oaklands. Just give it a try. Even if you only play for an hour, even if you only play for 30 minutes, I sincerely hope you give this game a try. And who knows, maybe you love it. Maybe you love it as much as me. And, yeah, that's really kind of all I have to say. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you go check out the game. And without any further dilly-dallying, that's all for me, fellas. See you later, and goodbye.